Hi. So in this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the basic workspace in Bitklavier, including how to use a MIDI device. The one thing I'm not going to touch on here is galleries and pianos. That will be covered in a separate video. So first things first, from this second drop-down menu, just select basic piano to get something that'll make some noise. And for now, you can ignore these top 5 tabs. That's under the topic of galleries and pianos. Um, all right, so once you have basic piano selected, you should be able to click on the keyboard at the bottom and hear some piano. But, there could be a couple reasons that you don't hear any sound when you do this. So to fix this, you could take a look at the settings up in the top left. Okay, so the first thing is output source. Select the right output source, whether that means headphones or speakers or just your built-in output. For me, I need this, and then you can click test. You should hear a little tone. Next, we have input. That can actually stay with none. Currently, Bitklavier doesn't do anything with the input, so that's fine. All right, so sample rate. This is an important one. The standard consumer kind of audio rate is generally 44.1 kilohertz. But if you're working in some kind of DAW or other professional audio setting, then you might want to match your sample rate here with the sample rate there. But I'm just going to keep this selected for now. Okay, moving right along. Next we have the audio buffer size. This is also pretty important. So without going into too much detail, you basically want to select the right sample size, considering both the delay you'll feel as a performer and the strain it puts on your computer. So if you have too large of a buffer size, then that might mean that there's a substantial latency between when a performer plays a note and when that note comes out of the computer. But if you have a too small buffer size, then that could mean your computer is doing a lot of work to send audio to the output source. So you want to find something reasonable. I think about 96 or 128 is good. The delay is below 3 milliseconds, but it's not going to put too much strain on your computer. Okay, and finally we have active MIDI inputs. This is, pretty important if you want to use a MIDI device. So I'm just going to plug in my MIDI keyboard. And you can see it pops right up there. Make sure the check mark shows up if you want to use it. And now, if I play notes on the keyboard, you can hear sound coming out. One quick note is that, if you're still having issues with the MIDI device, like it shows up here, but you're not getting any sound, you might want to look at the key map, which is this thing right here. You can open it up by double clicking, and then up here where it says select MIDI inputs, make sure you have your MIDI device selected. So either default MIDI input will work, or selecting the keyboard itself would actually work. Okay, so now just a little bit about this kind of screen here, this main screen. So on the left you have a volume meter. You can see when I play a note, lights up. Obviously, if you're kind of up in the red zone, you're maybe in danger of hearing a little distortion. On the right side you have a volume slider. You can drag it to select the level or just click where you want it. That seems reasonable. Next we have the Show Tooltips button. So this just kind of gives you little helpful messages when you hover over, various things here. So for example, you can see these little messages. All right. And finally, we have the sound font selector. So there's a number of different sound fonts. These top 4 here, these are all piano. And the heavy is kind of the most detailed piano sound, whereas the lightest is a very simple, bare bones piano. I like to use the heavy. And the rest of these are different sound fonts. These are the ones that come pre-installed with BitClavier. So if you remember, in a different video, I talked a little bit about the directory system of BitClavier. So these sound fonts all show up in the sound font directory. So this is the BitClavier kind of folder, and in sound fonts, you can see there's all these different sound fonts. And you can also, download your own sound font and just put it right in this folder, and you should be able to use it in BitClavier. One thing to note is that, if you select a sound font, I like this one, the harpsichord sound. There's kind of a main sound. And then there's a secondary selector, so I'm fond of this one. Okay, so finally, I just wanted to showcase this feature of BitClavier, being that you can use multiple MIDI devices in BitClavier. So you can see in my settings, I have 2 different keyboards selected. And then, you don't have to really understand what's going on yet. Future tutorials will explain how to do these kinds of things, but this kind of group is hooked up to one keyboard. So in the key map object under here, you can see the bottom keyboard is selected, and then this other group, the keyboard. The top keyboard is selected. So they look similar, but they produce very different sounds. This one I'm kind of using as the accompaniment sound, whereas this one is maybe the melody sound. And I use those terms, in the loosest sense possible. So here we go. Okay.